I was quite stunned when I opened the box and took out the GM1. I knew it would be small, but this was tiny. When you pick up a camera this size, you assume it's a compact, and that image quality will have been sacrificed for pocketability. It's a fair swap after all. The worst image quality of all is an image you couldn't take because you didn't have a camera with you. But the GM1 confounds your assumptions. It contains the same state-of-the-art sensor as the GX7, and being an MFT camera, it has interchangeable lenses. It is a compact, but not as we know it, Jim. The width of the camera body is only 5 times the width of the sensor, and with a 3-inch monitor occupying most of the camera's rear, this is not so much micro four thirds as MMFT mini micro four thirds. It comes with a new specially designed kit lens, a tiny 12 to 32mm f3.5 to 5.6, smaller even than Panasonic's previous compact standard zoom, the 14 to 42mm Vario X. Little is good, but something has to go. What sacrifices have been made? The first and most obvious omission is an articulated or even swivelling screen. The second is a lack of function buttons. The third is the lack of a built-in flash. Well, I mean, be reasonable, how could they... Except, unbelievably, yes, there is one. OK, but I bet there isn't an EVF. No, there isn't. In fact, when you look, there really is nowhere to put one. And there isn't a hot shoe either, so no way of fitting an accessory EVF. And no in-body stabilisation like the GX7. You could have all of those things, but only by making the camera bigger. And the point of this camera is being minuscule. So what we have here is a camera capable of both professional result and fitting in your pocket. On the top we have the pop-up flash, autofocus settings dial for manual, continuous and single focus, with the only hardware function button in the middle. I set this to focus lock rather than the default Wi-Fi switch. And then the mode dial with all the necessary program, manual, priority and so on settings, including the very handy custom 1 and 2 for a call of your own personal settings. The back has a crisp, clear and detailed 3-inch screen, important because it is your only means of framing your pictures. It's touch sensitive, so you can set the focus point and you can have on-screen function buttons appear if you wish. I set all my personal settings to custom 1 and 2, and then I can access my most used changes via the control dial and function buttons and a customised quick menu. There's the usual review button and a slightly crippled display button, in that the monitor live info display has been removed. That's annoying because it is an easy way to access and change all the camera's operational settings in one place, and it's even more useful on a minimalist camera like this than any of its bigger brothers. The 12 to 32mm zoom is tiny and trombones in 2 sections. It is much smaller than the 14 to 42 compact zoom, but not motorised and has no manual focus ring, so if you set focus to manual you have to use an on-screen slider to do it. It's a bit awkward and imprecise and basically just use autofocus. Panasonic needed a new design lens because so squat is the GM1 that the standard MFT lens mount overlaps the camera body. They have managed to pack in stabilisation though. The shutter is interesting. It is a much smaller unit than a normal focal plane shutter by dint of some clever design and compromise, and it contributes to the compact dimensions. It is hybrid electronic and mechanical. With the mechanical shutters fitted to GX7 and GH3, you can go to 1/8000th and 1/4000th of a second respectively. Then they have a quiet or even silent electronic shutter with the disadvantage of no flash use possible and a sort of distorting jello effect as it's known for technical reasons. With the GM1, the shutter is at root electronic, but there is a mechanical second shutter. What that means is you can have no jello effect at up to 1/500th of a second, but beyond that it is there. For most pictures it won't be noticeable, but for pictures with much lateral movement in them it may be. The top shutter speed for flash use is 1/50th. That may be limiting, in fact it will be in outdoor fill-in flash shots, but for indoor typical flash use it won't matter. And a double whammy for flash enthusiasts, the GM1 does not have wireless through the lens flash control that its big brothers have. The top shutter speed is a phenomenal 1/16,000th of a second. I just worked out that in that time a bullet from a Tommy gun travels less than 1 inch. So if press photographers had had this camera, they'd have been able to photograph the bullets on their way to plugging Al Capone's enemies in the St. Valentine's Day massacre. You have sequence shooting at up to 40 frames per second with various limitations, but if you want to see and follow what you are photographing, and who doesn't, the fastest motor speed with a live view is a relatively slow 4 frames per second. The GM1 has AVCHD and MP4 video at full high definition and the usual other settings, but not MOV. It does have focus peaking though. It's quite exciting to have a camera capable of top quality video, but which could be mounted on a cyclist's helmet, say, because it is so light. What about performance? Since it has Panasonic's latest sensor and takes the same lenses as all other MFT cameras, results from this little guy are up there with the best of them. I'd expected a compromise in image quality from the new zoom, but in fact it doesn't seem to give anything away to other kit lenses. A bit better than most, if anything. It doesn't match my much loved 12 to 35mm f2.8 Panasonic, and I'd probably be a bit miffed if it did. But it is sharp throughout the range with little purple fringing or vignetting. Sharpness across the frame is unusually good, falling off only at the extreme corners, even at f3.5 and 12mm. There is some barrel distortion at the 12mm end, evident where there are vertical lines, but easily corrected. Of course, MFT cameras correct most lens defects in camera, so it can be hard to know what exactly is going on. Personally, if the results look good and don't look processed, that's all I need. I'm not sure a zoom lens this tiny and with this wide an angle would be practical purely optically at an affordable price. I find myself often using this lens on my GX7 in place of my 14 to 42 compact because I prefer the 12 to 32mm range. Focusing speed and accuracy is impressive, but impressive is becoming normal on MFT these days and the envy of DSLR systems. If Micro Four Thirds continuous follow focus ever became as reliable as single lock-on, I think many professional sports photographers would contemplate MFT equipment. In the meantime, the GM1 is no better or worse than its siblings for follow focus. Close focus is nothing special. This is no mini micro macro 4/3. In terms of high ISO noise performance, you can use from 200 to 1600 ISO with no hesitation. At 3200, noise creeps in, but it is not in your face. A bit of noise may technically be an imperfection, but artistically I perceive it as atmosphere, and I find myself on occasions adding it to shots rather than trying to get rid of it. I have to digest that statement before I can realise the significance of it. I have in my hands a compact camera where I find myself wanting to add noise to the results under low light conditions. As the American expression has it, go figure. In use, there is no question that the size of the camera affects its handling, but it is less detrimental than I expected, and this coming from someone who bought a GH3 because it was bigger rather than in spite of being bigger. The GM1 sits nicely in the hand, it feels comfortable and balanced with even the f2.8 zooms, for example, or the 14 to 140 super zoom. The monitor has a wide viewing angle, but I really do miss the convenience of an articulated or swivelling screen for those low and high shots. I found I had to be careful when shooting not to accidentally press the right side of the rear dial with my palm, suddenly finding the white balance options dominating the screen. Also, when wanting to alter the aperture setting in aperture priority mode, by turning the dial, I found myself accidentally pressing it and bringing up drive options or AF mode settings. I miss the function buttons that I use so much on my bigger cameras, and while the soft buttons on the screen are okay, I prefer to use a customised quick menu where possible. Battery life is rated at 230 shots, and I found that it ran out more quickly than my other MFT cameras, for the very obvious reason that it is smaller. The little zoom needs expanding before you can use it, but that takes no time at all. Taken as a whole, the GM1 is a very clever quart in a pint pot. In terms of facilities, there is time-lapse, stop motion, silent mode where the camera operation is literally silent, high dynamic range and the very good intelligent auto mode. Basically, your GM1 becomes a compact not only in size, but in operation too, auto everything. You've still got that MFT image quality though. And there's a neat handheld night shot you can use with intelligent auto that takes multiple frames and then knits them together to make one sharp shot. The GM1 has Panasonic's useful built-in Wi-Fi, which gives you remote control and monitoring from Android or Apple phones and pads, plus GPS tagging and wireless uploading to your computer and social media. Surprisingly, where the GX7 Wi-Fi controller has a range of between 2 and 3 meters, the GM1 seems to have a similar range to the GH3, around 10 meters. How to sum up this camera? I think the GM1 is more significant than just its size. It defines the Micro Four Thirds system as something unique in photography. A camera system that encompasses DSLR-sized cameras, through bridge cameras to compact cameras. Cameras with buttons and bells and whistles of a Canon or Nikon DSLR through to a camera where the body is barely larger than the rear monitor. All using the same size sensors and the same lenses. It's unprecedented. MFT has the potential to be an ecosystem of its own, filling the entire space between mobile phone cameras and full frame. For me, the GM1 is a perfect second camera, one to have with you all of the time for the suddenly occurring picture. Or a perfect backup for your bigger MFT camera, maybe fitted with a second lens, wide angle on one, short telly on the other, for example. As a backup, you'll hardly know it is there. But let's say you want to shoot video and stills at the same time. You could screw both to a bracket side by side and set the GM1 going on the video while you shoot the stills at raw quality on your main camera. The GM being so light you'd hardly notice it was there. As an upgrade for a compact camera user, it is just perfect. Just as convenient, but you'd fall over when you see the clarity and colour of that low light shot that would have been a mushy, noisy mess on your previous device. If you ignore the size of the GM1 and look at it simply as an MFT camera, it stands up less well. It's a great camera, but there are other MFTs, like the Olympus EPL5 at a similar price, which offer more flexibility and are a better buy. Bigger, yes, but a swivelling monitor is a liberating thing. And an electronic viewfinder, built-in or accessory, brings you right into proper camera territory. The reality is, you can't ignore the GM1's size. It's what it is, and it's what it is for. I stick it in my gym bag when I go to the gym, in my bike bag when I get the Sunday papers, in my jacket pocket when I go for a beer with a mate, and in my camera bag with my GH3 just in case. For an ex-press photographer like me, going out without a camera is like going out naked. Compact cameras are no use. The images are iffy and unsaleable. Why bother? The GM1 is my fig leaf. It doesn't cover everything, but it does cover the essentials. Thanks for watching.